What's up guys, VeganTaz here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Ring Fit. Now the Ring Fit is a controller basically that comes with a game that you'll need a Nintendo Switch to play this basically. And the Ring Fit is an amazing piece of, sports equipment, I'd definitely say. If like me during the current pandemic, you're locked inside, you don't have access to the gym, or you don't have free weights because they're selling really expensive, this is an amazing alternative. In fact, this I'd say it can work out your whole body, and I'll explain why. So at the moment, the chances are if you aren't using free weights and you don't have access to a gym, the chances are you're using resistance bands or you're doing body weight, exercises and stuff to keep fit. So this is essentially almost like replacing the resistance bands in a way. So you're probably looking at this and thinking, okay, how can this replace my full body? And there are so many different exercises that this uses. And you're probably thinking, how is this? All the different movements I can do with this, how is that enough? It just looks so light, it doesn't look like it does much. The instructional video that follows this game is emphasizing that you hold movement. So, when you squeeze in or squeeze out or whatever movement you're doing, you're holding that position, and essentially that is what is causing, the resistance, is the fact that you're holding that position. It's like holding a squat, or you're holding a push or pull movement. That's essentially the way it's working out. You're doing that for many repetitions. Now this is obviously different to full-on bodybuilding, where you have a really heavy dumbbell or barbell and you're going for low reps, high weight sort of hypertrophy. This is different because you're going for reps essentially. But at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where this is the kind of training you need to entail. If you don't have heavy free weights, this is your next best thing. So I think it's amazing for that. Now, I really want to walk through this product and show you guys all the different sort of exercises it uses. And to be honest, this is an amazing piece of equipment. After I've done this for 5 or 6 days, my body is quite generally sore and I need a day to recover. So that in itself is telling me I've had, quite an intense workout. I usually do this for about half an hour a day, and it will usually cut you off around the halfway point saying, do you want to take a rest? And I'm usually like, nope, let's just go on with this. I think everyone sort of should take this at their own pace. You can set your difficulty and you can tailor the experience exactly to what you want to do. So if you're injured in any way, you can emphasize more of the exercise movements on upper body, lower body, or abdominals. So you're always able to tailor the experience to what you're able to do. So I really want to just show you guys essentially what it looks like when you're actually using the game, and how it really uses fitness in the game, how you're attacking monsters, gaining smoothies and stuff, and how it all works in the dynamic. So let's just jump into the first part. So for the first part, you're typically going to have a world. You're going to have, some sort of route you go down in terms of like a linear route. You can choose exactly what path you want to go down in this adventure. Now each sort of route or world entails different skill sets being more effective. When I say that is that each monster has its own weakness. So you have red monsters that will be weak to upper body movements. You'll have blue monsters that are weak to lower body movements, and you'll have yellow monsters that are weak to abdominal movements. And those bonuses stack. You don't necessarily have to use those movements, but if you want to clear that monster with less repetitions, then that is the strategic approach you want to take. Next I want to talk about, okay, so you have this monster in front of you. What approach do you want to take? It's completely up to you. You'll have your list of exercises. I think you can usually set a good few skills, and then out of those skills you've set, you can decide exactly what sort of order you want to do your movement. So you don't necessarily have to follow a set routine. You can say, okay, I want to do an upper body movement followed by a lower body movement followed by an abdominal movement. That's up to you. You can take that approach. But like I said as well, is that you have to consider you get more bonuses if you use the right body part movement to the color of the monster. But also it's not a significant advantage, and you still can get around this just by, drinking smoothies that you'll eventually accumulate as you go through the adventure, and that'll help assist you. So if you wanted to go through a world only doing, let's say, upper body because your lower body is injured, you can take that approach just using smoothies that you're going to make off throughout your adventure, or you can buy them from the shop and it will let you convert your skills. So if you need to use upper body movements, you can do that using lower body movements, just converting it by drinking a smoothie. So there's a lot of different mechanics that you can use during the gameplay of this that I find is personally very effective if you feel too injured, and you can adapt your playstyle to what you want to do. So the way Smoothies works is while you're running around, you basically start the game by running through a forest sort of scenario. and you'll see boxes that you'll break open doing this. You'll be breaking open boxes to your left and right, and you'll be sucking in coins like that, which is, you know, that's a pull movement. So you're working, even while you're doing the cardio, you're still getting some resistance in while you're jogging. And while you break open those boxes, you get the coins that you can use in the shop to buy smoothies, buy fitness gear that helps your attack bonus. You can also gain ingredients to make your own smoothies. And when you make smoothies, you also squeeze every time. So it always works out, you know, some sort of exercise in every dynamic of the game, which is very effective, I find. Okay, so let's talk about the warm-up. Before you actually start the game, it will encourage you to actually stretch, which is very important. Of course, you don't want to injure yourself while you're doing these movements. So, you know, I really commend them for putting that part of their workout routine. And there's an on-screen trainer here that just shows you exactly how to do the movements. And they'll always give you little tips and pointers to make sure you're doing it properly. And for this one, it doesn't actually, you know, the ring doesn't actually gauge your interaction. It's just an on-screen, you know, almost guide that just helps you understand how to stretch. You can always, you know, decide to skip the stretch routine if you have your own stretch routine. So it's also, you know, very tailored to your own personal experience. If you have your own stretch routine, by all means, you know, use that routine. And this is something you don't need to do. It's not compulsory. So I think that's something that's really important, is, you know, encouraging you to stretch out your muscles. Make sure you don't injure yourself when you're doing the movements. Okay, so first, when you start your adventure, you'll just be jogging, you know, you'll be breaking boxes open, trying to get coins. And I find this is very good for just warming up in general, getting your heart rate going before you actually do the resistance-based movements. And yeah, I just find it very effective. And I think that in general, it just helps with mobility as well. There are times in the jogging where you also need to bring your knees nice and high to get upstairs, which also warms up, you know, all your leg muscles for when you need to do the leg movements too. So this overhead press here it's a push-in movement, and basically you're keeping your shoulders up, you're pushing in, you know, almost like you're trying to bring your hands together. So you're squeezing the ring con in, you're holding, and it's just a very effective way of working out your shoulder muscles as well as your triceps. I find it very effective. Moving on to front press. Now this is a very interesting movement. It works upper body. I would go as far as saying I feel a lot of chest activation, a lot of shoulder activation, and I generally squeeze my biceps as well while I do this. You do feel yourself use muscles that you might not necessarily need to use, but I find that's very effective anyway. And in general, it's just a very good movement, and so yeah. Bow pull is quite interesting. It's like, you got to think of it as having like a bow and an arrow. So I found it to be quite a fun, goofy sort of exercise, and it's very effective at working. It's almost like a row in the way you're pulling it back, the same way you pull, you know, dumbbells back. So it's sort of like a dumbbell row in a way, mimics that movement. But on top of that, you're doing a push movement with the other arm. So you're working out triceps and biceps and back muscles. So it is very compound. It's very interesting, to be honest. Overhead twist it's one of those movements that doesn't have a massive amount of intensity, but I found out it does help to, you know, stretch out a lot of the tension in general. I do use my shoulders a lot when I use this movement, and you do feel some fatigue from it, so it's not completely, you know, relaxed. Even though it looks quite easy, eventually after a while of doing it, you'll feel a lot of intensity. Moving on to thigh press, a bit of an awkward movement, to be honest, because the ring con sometimes will drop, so you've got to always make sure you try and keep that balance between your legs. And sometimes you'll see me, you know, readjust the Joy-Con if I think it's going to fall, because you'll lose that rep, and generally you just want to keep it stable. After using it for some time, you get used to it and you won't make these mistakes, but it's just something to watch out for. Is you want to always keep it balanced between your legs. You're squeezing and you're working your hips and your thighs, and it's just a very effective movement. Moving on to the squat. This is a very difficult movement, to be honest with you, because you're doing 30 paused reps, and after a while of doing this, you know, you're gonna really feel it in your glutes, you're gonna feel it in your hamstrings and your quadriceps. And it's a very fatiguing movement, and the thing I don't like personally about squats in this game is it doesn't do a massive amount of damage, and I usually find myself doing wide squats more often than not, but still you've got to incorporate squats in your routine regardless, so it's a very effective movement. Moving on to wide squat, this is personally one of my favorites. I feel a lot of burn when I do wide squats. If you do sumo squats, you know, or goblet squats, and you have a wide stance, it's very similar to that, and it's got more emphasis, you know, on hamstring as opposed to quadriceps. So, you know, front squats and wide squats are two different ones you need to start implementing into your routine to get more of a compound based leg movement. Moving on to knee lifts, I find this is quite similar to my Muay Thai routines, which is why I'm doing it sort of in the shape of an X when you see me doing it. I love this movement. You know, it really gets your heart rate going. There's a lot of, it feels like it's a more cardio-centric movement because you're constantly going instead of squeezing. So personally, this is one of my favorites. If I want to get my heart rate going, this is something I put at the start of my workout to sort of just warm my heart up before I start getting into it. Knee to chest, this one here is also, it's very engaging. You feel it a lot in your abdominals, your lower abs especially, I would say. And this is one of those ones where towards the end you really feel the burn, and I think in a way it also stretches out your legs too, so it's nice to have this, you know, knee to chest exercise before you start getting into the leg movements too. The plank is one of the fundamental ones really for abs. This sort of plank variation is very different towards your traditional plank. So what you're doing is you're bringing your butt up and then you're going down. The hold position where you're holding is at the top essentially, and then when you accentuate your hips towards the bottom is when you're releasing. This movement right here is also great for your hips as well, when you engage your hips while you're thrusting forwards. But in general, it's just a general plank and it helps you burn out your abs pretty much. Moving on to the hip twists, another abdominal exercise. This is very great again for hips. So if you're one of those guys who's into martial arts, this is actually a very good movement to accentuate into your routine. I find personally, if you're doing high kicks and things like that, or you're working on your twists when you're plunging, blocking, this movement is just brilliant, honestly. It helps you warm up your hips as well, and in general it just opens up your hip muscles so that you're more accentuated for, you know, hip movements. Fan pose, this is the first yoga move. Yoga moves are great, they help you stretch out a lot of muscle tension, but they're very difficult at the start because you find yourself shaking a lot. So if you're new to yoga, please expect that. You're not going to be used to it, so it's going to be a very difficult movement to sort of start off with if this is new to you. I myself find myself shaking when I'm doing yoga movements, especially towards the end when I can really feel the burn. And then something else it encourages is cooldown stretching, which is also very important. You want to cool down afterwards, you want to stretch out any tension in your muscles, and you want to make sure that you don't just go about your life and then you end up pulling, you know, a muscle from just, I don't know, any sort of general movement. So it's very important you always stretch afterwards as well. Stretching before and after is crucial, especially if you're really putting emphasis on this, you're going really all out and you want to get a good half an hour workout in. You always want to make sure you're stretching because you'll feel a lot of tension during the movement, and you don't want to end up carrying that tension around as well. And also you don't want to, like I said, you don't want to pull a muscle, so it's really important to stretch it all out. So that is pretty much me walking through the movements. I'm going to put a link in the description because I haven't talked about every single muscle that's engaged in every single one of those movements. I've just spoken about my personal experience doing these movements. And also there are so many skills, you guys, that you can unlock along the way. You don't unlock them all at the start. You've got to go through your adventure and start unlocking them as you start to work through those worlds that I showed you at the start. And you might start with only 4 exercises, and it might seem like at the start you're like, oh no, is this all I'm doing? No, you guys, there's so many skills that you have out there. You're never going to get bored of this. Even once you've done the adventure, there's loads of mini games that you can participate in, or you can just rerun through the adventure and go completionist. This is one of those products, okay, even when you finish the game, you're going to be thriving to keep going through it, because you're going to be always wanting to work out, whether that's, you know, making your own sort of workout routine of a, you know, I'm going to work out my upper body this day, lower body that day. It's up to you. I personally would use it as a full body workout. So I'd say just have a variation every single day you're going to do it. So maybe, you know, mix it up. So you might go upper, lower abs, upper, lower abs. It's really up to you how you want to work out your muscles. It's very different to bodybuilding training where you know, focus on one muscle portion at the start and maybe another muscle portion at the end. I'd say this is more of just to mix it up and just try and, you know, push yourself and go for it and just work out your whole body. This in general is a very good product. I'd say it's a must buy if you have a Nintendo Switch. If you don't have a Nintendo Switch, it's a much bigger investment. If you don't have a Nintendo Switch, it's a much bigger investment, of course, because you'll need to spend the £250 for the Nintendo Switch and then, you know, the £60–70 for the Ring-Con. So in general, something I'd just like to, you know, say is, if you have a Switch, buy it, and you're into fitness, it's just a must buy. If you don't have a Switch, then maybe look at alternatives, because you'll need to fork out another 250 quid for a Switch, and you might not even be into video games, so that might not even be an option for you to buy the Switch. But anyway, you guys, this is an amazing product. If you're stuck in lockdown, you have a Switch, buy it. Brilliant. So much variation to your workouts. It will encourage you to work out if you're struggling to get that sort of, you know, momentum to go every day, to work out every day. This is one of those things you'll say, okay, after I've done my working day, I'm going to throw this on for half an hour and just work out. And it's not something massively hard either. You can tailor your experience. If you don't want a hard workout one day, you can tailor yourself to easier, you know, simple workouts just through having less intense movements involved. So some of those skills are less intense than others. So you can, by all means, choose exactly how you want to tailor your workout. If you're injured, like I said, you can tailor the workouts to a different body part and just work like that. But this product right here, if I'm honest, I can't rate this high enough. I just rate it 10 out of 10 if I had to rate it, because this is just a massive evolution into sports, in technology, and really it's just going to go up from here. But this is game changing. I think the last iteration of, you know, sports and technology was sort of the, you know, the Wii Fit era, the Wii Boxing era, or anything like that. Basically, this takes it another level. This Joy-Con here you attach to your leg, helps you monitor all your leg movements, your abdominal muscles too. Very good. And obviously the ring itself is very good for monitoring, you know, upper body. So it's basically monitoring your whole body movements, which is very important. It encourages you, you know, to always hit the range of motion you need to hit. If you're not hitting your squats low enough, it will pick up on that. It will tell you to hit your squats lower. And it's basically always encouraging you to improve yourself. So it's a product, like I said, I can't recommend it enough. 10 out of 10, must buy if you have a Nintendo Switch. Anyway, you guys, this is my video review. And always, you know, check out other reviews and just make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. It's an amazing product though. And honestly, you won't be disappointed if you buy this. You'll always be using it at some point. That's my review. I hope you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in that next video. Peace out.